Make sure you tell us in the comments where you're watching from and which story you would like to see next. Once upon a time, there was a wealthy merchant who lived in a comfortable house with his 6 children. He was a sensible man who spared no expense on their education, hiring the finest teachers to guide each child well. His daughters were all beautiful in their own right, but the youngest was especially striking, which made the elder sisters envious. From the day she was born, everyone admired her, calling her the Little Beauty. As she grew into a radiant young woman, the nickname stuck, and it was by this name that she became known. Naturally, this deepened her older sister's envy. Between them, the older 2 daughters were proud, even accustomed to luxury and admiration. They refused to associate with ordinary townsfolk or the daughters of other merchants. They had decided that they would only entertain proposals from dukes or ears. Every day they went to parties, balls, theater outings, and concerts. By contrast, Beauty found her joy in books. She'd settle down for hours with stories of distant lands or wisdom, and loved to sing or play the harpsichord in her spare time. Suitors were plentiful. Many well-off men offered their hearts to those 2 older sisters, but were turned aside. They wanted only aristocratic matches. Beauty politely thanked those who courted her, saying she felt too young to marry and preferred to stay with her father a while longer. Then misfortune struck. The merchant lost his fortune. Almost overnight, he found himself ruined. All that remained was a modest country house, far from the bustle of the city. With tears in his eyes, he told his children the truth. They would have to go live there and earn their keep. The 2 older sisters reacted in fury. They refused to leave the city. How could they give that up? They expected their lovers would stand by them. But when the money vanished, so did the attention. Their suitors, who had loved them for their beauty and ease, soon abandoned them. Locals mocked their pride and rejoiced in their downfall. Beauty, by contrast, stepped forward with compassion. She would go, she said. No matter how humble their means, she would stay by her father's side and comfort him. She cried for their loss, but resolved that grief would not change their situation. When they arrived at the countryside cottage, life changed drastically. The father and sons worked the land with dedication, while Beauty rose at dawn to clean, cook, and manage the home. Unaccustomed to such labor, she found it exhausting at first. But by the end of 2 months, her health grew stronger, even more than before. With chores done, she read books, practiced the harpsichord, sang or spun wool with gentle industry. Meanwhile, her 2 older sisters frittered away their days. "Oh, I'm so bored. Look at her scrubbing floors."
How dull her life must be. Tears won't bring back our fortune. I must learn to be happy without it.
Their father, however, valued Beauty more than ever. He saw that she not only possessed beauty, but kindness, humility, and extraordinary resilience. A year passed in this quiet life until one day the merchant received exciting news. A ship carrying his merchandise had finally landed safely. Hope returned.
And I will have ribbons and precious trinkets.
Beauty asked for something simple.
A rose.
Since none grew in their little valley, she didn't long for luxuries. Her father smiled at her restraint and promised to bring it back. But when he reached the city, he was mired in legal wranglings over his goods. Nothing went right. "I'm afraid this is final. There's nothing more I can do." He returned poorer than ever. Saddened but undeterred, he resumed the journey home. A storm descended. Rain turned to snow. The wind lashed and twice it threw him from his horse. Darkness fell and his mind turned to wolves howling nearby and the shadow of freezing hunger. Then through a line of trees he saw a light beckoning. He urged his horse forward and discovered a grand palace lit from top to bottom, yet silent. No servant came to greet him. The stable was open and its provisions plentiful. His tired horse ate gratefully while the merchant entered and found a lavish table with one place set. Though soaked and weary, he dared to help himself to some chicken and wine, and discovered a cozy bed in an upstairs chamber. Exhausted, he fell into deep sleep. When he woke late the next morning, he discovered fresh clothes laid out for him. Through the window, he saw the garden full of flowers. Full of gratitude to his invisible benefactor, he sipped chocolate and thanked Madame Fairy in whispered words. But just before he left, he remembered Beauty's wish. He stepped into the garden and plucked a single rose.
Ungrateful man.
I gave you shelter, and you steal my rose, you shall die. Please, sir, it was for my daughter who asked for nothing else.
I can't let you go unless you fetch me one of your daughters. She must come willingly and offer her life in your place. If not, you must return to me within 3 months.
You may fill a chest with whatever you wish here and go with it. Given the choice between being eaten or offering a daughter, the merchant found some small comfort in being allowed to say goodbye first. When he arrived, he told his family everything, especially Beauty, handing her the rose.
Now it will be the death of him.
No!
Then I will take his place.
Her brothers insisted on going to kill the beast, but he would hear none of it. He forgave Beauty's bravery and allowed her to proceed. He kept the fortune in the chest a secret so the family would not demand to return to town. In the morning they left. The kindly beast welcomed them. Have you come of your own free will? Yes, the beast allowed her father to go home at dawn, but cautioned him never to return, and only with gratitude he agreed. Beauty alone in the castle wept. It was strange and frightening. She resolved to make the most of it. She began exploring the palace and found a door inscribed with her name. Inside was everything she could love: a grand bedroom, a library, a harpsichord, and a collection of books. On an open page written in golden letters were these lines: "Welcome Beauty, banish fear."
You are the queen and mistress here. Express your wishes. Express your will.
Swift obedience meets them still. She whispered that all she wished was to know about her father, and at that moment a magical mirror showed her home. Her father had returned home safely. The palace provided a rich dinner and enchanting silent concerts every evening. At supper, the beast came to join her. He confessed he was ugly and lacking wit.
What really matters is the heart, not appearance.
Your heart is what truly matters, not how you appear.
She found the beast kind and observant and appreciated him for it. Every evening the beast came, always at 9. His devotion warmed her. Yet every night he asked if she'd marry him, and every night she refused, kindly saying she valued him as a friend.
I love her. I love her.
But promise me.
To come back in a week. I promise.
Offering a ring, if she placed it on the bedside table before sleep, she would wake at home and return the same way.
Look at this. Bella.
You're back? But how?
She dressed in the simplest
Sisters!
gown. Her sisters arrived, their husbands by their side, and envied her splendor. The eldest husband was handsome but vain. The second's husband made cynical jokes with cruelty. Beauty's sisters cried
so
at her
happy for
happiness
you.
and plotted to keep her longer. If she breaks her promise and stays longer, perhaps the beast will punish her.
Let's wear her down with kindness. Kindly.
And when Beauty prepared to leave, their lamentation moved her to stay yet another week. Still, Beauty's heart was burdened. She loved the beast dearly and hated that he might suffer in her absence. On the 10th night, she dreamed of him dying, crippled by sorrow.
What have I done?
She awoke shattered.
Why
Why have I been so cruel? I can't live without him.
That evening, she dressed in her finest gown to greet him. When the clock
Beast,
struck 9,
Beast?
he did not come. Panic rose
where
and
are
she
you?
rushed through the castle distraught. Wait.
No.
Oh no. She came upon the canal in the garden
Beast.
where she found him faint
Beast,
and bleeding.
no. No, stay with me, please.
Seeing you again lets me die happy.
I long to be your companion, your wife.
Music, fireworks, shimmering lights drew Beauty's gaze, but she was transfixed by what stood before her. The beast transformed. No longer monstrous, he stood as a handsome, noble prince.
An enchanted fairy has cursed me, making me appear like a beast.
Beast?
Until a woman loved me for my heart and my goodness, not for my looks, you broke the spell. Your kindness has broken the spell.
At that moment, the fairy of Beauty's dream
Bella!
entered with her
Bella!
father and the entire family, transported magically to the palace.
I bless your union. Bella will be a great queen without losing her kindness.
But to the two older sisters, whose envy and pride had no redemption, she pronounced a different fate, turned into statues outside their sister's palace to remain as such until they learned to admit their faults. And so Beauty married the prince, and they lived happily for many years. A happiness rooted in love, virtue, and grace, just as all good fairy tales end. Long ago, during a bitter, snowy winter, a queen sat by her window sewing. She pricked her finger with the needle, and drops of bright red blood fell onto the white snow on the sill.
I wish for a child with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as this ebony frame.
Not long afterward, the queen gave birth to a baby girl who looked exactly as she had wished. They named her Snow White, but the queen's joy was brief, for she soon fell ill and died. A year passed, and the king took another wife. The new queen was very beautiful, but she was also proud and cruel. She could not bear the idea that anyone might be more beautiful than she was. In her room, she kept a magic mirror, and every day she stood before it.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all? You, my queen, are the fairest of all.
That answer pleased her. As time went by, Snow White grew into a lovely young girl. One morning, the queen stood before her mirror and asked her usual question.
You are fair, O queen. It is true.
But Snow White is fairer than you.
Queen's heart filled with rage and jealousy. From that moment on, she hated the sight of Snow White.
Take Snow White into the forest, kill her, and bring me her heart as proof that she is dead.
The huntsman led Snow White deep into the dark woods. When he raised his knife, Snow White began to cry.
Please, dear huntsman, don't hurt me. Let me go, and I promise I will run far away and never return.
Run, child. Escape as far as you can.
To trick the queen, he killed a wild boar and brought its heart back to the castle, pretending it was Snow White's. The queen believed him and had the heart cooked and eaten, convinced that her rival was gone forever. Meanwhile, Snow White ran through the forest, terrified and alone.
What will I do? Where am I? I'm so frightened.
She cried, wandering for hours without knowing where she was going. At last, as the sun began to set, she found a strange little house. Inside, everything was small. 7 little plates, 7 cups, 7 sets of cutlery, and 7 tiny beds in a row. Snow White was very hungry, so she tasted a little food from each plate and drank a small sip from each cup. Then she tried each of the beds until she found one that felt just right. She lay down and soon fell fast asleep. Later that night, the 7 dwarfs who lived in the house returned from working in the mountains.
Someone has been sitting in my chair.
Someone has been drinking from my cup. Someone has been eating from my plate.
Do you see this? 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 Woof! Ah! Someone has been sleeping in my bed, and look, she is still there. She's so beautiful.
What a beautiful little girl. Look at her face.
They did not wake her, but let her sleep through the night. At dawn, Snow White opened her eyes and saw the 7 little men. She was frightened at first, but they spoke kindly and asked who she was and how she had come to their home. Snow White told them everything. The wicked stepmother, the huntsman who had let her go, and how she had wandered through the forest until she found their cottage.
If you stay here with us and keep the house in order, cooking and cleaning, you may live here safely. We will protect you.
Thank you.
I accept.
Snow White thanked them and agreed. From then on, she lived happily with the 7 dwarfs. Every morning they went off to the mountains to work, and every evening they returned to a warm meal and a tidy home.
Before they left each day, the dwarfs warned her, be careful. Do not let anyone in. Your stepmother is very dangerous.
I promise. I'll be careful.
Snow White promised to be cautious and kept the door locked. Back at the palace, the queen was certain she was once again the fairest in the land.
Mirror? Mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest one of all?
Fair, O Queen. But Snow White beyond the hills with the 7 dwarfs is fairer still.
So she still lives. Very well. If I want her gone, I must do it myself.
She shut herself away, thinking and plotting, until at last she devised a plan that she believed could not fail. She prepared a beautiful red and white apple, poisoning only the red side. Anyone who bit into that half would fall down as if dead. Then she disguised herself as a simple farmer woman. With a basket of apples over her arm, she crossed the dark forest, climbed the hills, and finally reached the dwarf's little house. She knocked on the door and called in a friendly voice.
Delicious apples, fresh from the orchard.
Inside, Snow White heard the voice and went to the window. Remembering the dwarf's warning, she kept the door closed.
I am not allowed to let anyone in. I must not open the door to strangers.
Then don't open the door, dear child. Look, I'll cut this apple in half. You'll have the red side. I'll eat the white.
The apple looked so bright and tempting, and the woman seemed so kind that Snow White hesitated. At last, she unlatched the window and reached out her hand. The queen placed the red half into Snow White's palm. The moment Snow White took a bite, she dropped to the floor, pale and still. The disguised queen gave a low laugh, glanced at the motionless girl, and hurried back to the castle, certain that this time Snow White was gone forever. When the dwarfs came home that evening, they found Snow White lying on the floor, cold and lifeless.
They called her name and shook her gently, but she did not move.
They looked for anything that might have harmed her, yet they could not find the cause. She did not breathe, but she was as beautiful as ever. For 3 days, the dwarf sat beside her and wept.
She is too beautiful to hide beneath the ground.
Yes, you are right.
They built a glass coffin so that she could be seen from every side, laid her inside, and carried it to a hill in the forest. One of them always stayed nearby to keep watch. On the coffin, they wrote in golden letters, "Snow White, daughter of a king." Back at the castle, the queen once more went to her mirror.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
You, my queen, are fairest of all.
One day, a prince riding through the forest noticed the glass coffin on the hill and the beautiful girl lying within it. He read the golden inscription and felt his heart fill with sorrow and admiration.
Is so beautiful. Please, let me take her to my castle. I will honor and love her all my life.
At first, the dwarfs refused, but the prince begged so earnestly that at last they agreed and gave him the coffin. As his servants carried it away, they stumbled over a root. The coffin jerked, and the piece of poisoned apple that had lodged in Snow White's throat. She coughed, opened her eyes, and looked around confused. "Where am I?" she whispered.
You are safe now. The spell is broken. Come with me to my castle. Will you be my queen?
Heart overflowing with gratitude and accepted.
A grand wedding was arranged, and the 7 dwarfs were invited as honored guests. There was music, feasting, and happiness throughout the land. The wicked queen also received an invitation, still believing Snow White to be dead. Before leaving, she went once more to her mirror.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
You, my queen, are fair, it is true, but the young queen is fairer than you.
Fear and fury seized her, but curiosity drove her to the wedding. There she saw Snow White alive, radiant and more beautiful than ever. At the feast, a terrible punishment had been prepared. The queen was forced to put on red-hot iron shoes and dance in them, until she fell to the floor and never rose again. From that day on, Snow White and the prince ruled their kingdom with kindness and joy. She never forgot the 7 dwarfs who had protected her, and they often visited the castle, always welcomed as dear friends. And so they all lived happily ever after.